Welcome to this module of the course in which we're going to explore research into the role not only of the REC or the APRE, but I've also included a reading about what we know about beginning teachers. And I've done that because as a result of those who have introduced themselves to the group, it's clear that we have a number of people who are just beginning their career. So in thinking about this unit and in looking at the, sort of some of the research and some of the readings that you're going to come across, you could almost title this section of the module From the Holy One to the Educational Guru. And I'll explain what I mean by that in a moment. But the first reading you'll encounter in this module, Module 1B, looks at the experience of beginning teachers in Western Australia. And I found this a particularly interesting reading because it raises some issues about teacher image. One of the things that you'll hear me talk about, and if you've had me before for a unit, you've probably already heard me talk about, are three images that Esler and Esler, who researched science teachers in the United States, put forward. And they were the images of the teacher as technician, who just simply takes what they've been given and they do it as they've been told. Teacher as manipulator, and by this they have some scope to modify what they do in terms of the needs of their student. Or the third image, the teacher as innovator, where the teacher certainly still has to cover the same material, but they're given more scope in how they do it. So as you read this article from Western Australia, consider those three images. And one of the things that I found particularly interesting from reading the article was the problem that beginning teachers had when they are then asked to make connections between the gospel message and the lives of themselves and their students. And I suggest that even as teachers become more experienced, that's quite a significant issue. We'll have a look at that in more detail when we look at scriptural interpretation, and we'll also have a look at it under contemporary issues when we look at the projects around Catholic identity and recontextualising the Christian message. So that's the first reading. We then move on and we look at the role of the REC or the APRE as it has evolved throughout time. And that's where I subtitled this unit, From the Holy One to the Educational Guru, because the initial move towards RECs was a way to replace the declining presence of religious in Catholic schools. And so initially, RECs or APREs were tasked very much with the liturgical or the religious life of the school. The religion curriculum, for the most part, wasn't terribly complex. Many places followed what at the time were known as the Melbourne Guidelines, and the focus was very much liturgical and in the religious life of the school, so social justice collections, things like that. As we moved through the 1980s and into the 1990s, what began happening in education in Australia was that a number of key learning areas were developed, and Catholic education officers took a decision that religious education needed to be one of those areas. And so what begins happening to the role of the APRE, even though the religious aspect of the role was still very, very important, increasingly what people were looking to were RECs and APREs to provide curriculum leadership. And in many ways, this is the tension of the role, that at one level, the person responsible for the coordination of RE has specific responsibilities for the religious life of the school, but increasingly they have responsibility not just for the religion curriculum, the classroom curriculum, but they are meant to engage with the other people in curriculum leadership positions to make sure that a Catholic perspective is embedded in other areas as well. And for this reason, the role of the APRE and the REC becomes very, very important. So as you read through the material in this unit, think about the diverse needs of people who are tasked with the coordination of religious education, but think also about the needs and experiences of people who are beginning their journey as a religious education teacher.